I think I found the one plugin that could make me shoot everything in log again, but first I had to put it to the test. So I love shooting in log, but if I'm being honest, I hardly ever do it anymore. Not because it doesn't look better, it absolutely does, but because getting from a flat log image to a look that I'm actually happy with still takes some time, especially if I'm matching shots or if I'm matching cameras. So more often than not, I find myself shooting S-Cinetone instead. Sometimes I even shoot in 8-bit when I know I won't be pushing the grade too much, because the workflow is just so much faster and there is also less storage needed when I shoot in 8-bit. So recently Dehancer got in touch and asked if I would try their film emulation plugin, and it got me wondering, could this finally be the thing that gets me shooting log again? So I've spent the last few weeks putting it through its pace across all sorts of footage. So I'll show you how it works, how I use it, what I like and what I don't like as well. And also I'll show you the two things that I discovered that, depending on your workflow, could be a deal breaker. So before we jump in, I just want to explain where I'm coming from. So I'm not a professional colorist, I'm a part-time freelance videographer. For me, it's all about finding the right balance between image quality and the output and the editing time. My goal isn't to squeeze every last bit of quality out of every shot. It's really to get the best result I can for the project I'm working on. So that's the perspective I'm reviewing Dehancer from. And just as a disclaimer, Dehancer provided me with a license to test the software, but this isn't a paid review, and they specifically encouraged me to be completely honest, which I really appreciate. If you do decide to give it a try, I've got an affiliate link in the description and you can use the code 10NICO for 10% off. It helps support the channel at no extra cost to you. Now let's jump into the software. Alright, so here we are in Final Cut Pro. The plugin also works in other editing software, but the workflow is essentially the same. First time you'll open the plugin, it will prompt you to download all the camera profiles and film emulations. For me, that took about 2 minutes, and then you're ready to go. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is that Dehancer is designed to work with log footage. In my case, everything here was shot with Sony S-Log 3. I also strongly recommend you shoot in 10-bit, as the colors would fall apart pretty quick, I assume, if you don't. So I've picked a range of clips to test it on, people, landscapes, different lighting conditions, and some pretty challenging cases with high dynamic range, for example, just to see how consistent it is across different situations. So let's start with this first clip. The first thing you want to do is apply the plugin. One thing I noticed straight away is that Dehancer doesn't remember your settings by default, so unless you've saved your own preset, every new clip starts from scratch. Personally, I would recommend creating a preset as soon as you find a look you like. It will save you a lot of time later on. So the first thing you want to do is select the correct camera profile. For this particular shot, that's the Sony FX30, and I was shooting in S-Log 3, ISO 800 in S-Gamma 3 Cine. After that, what I like doing is turning the film grain off. So there are two reasons I do this. The first one is that I find the playback is a little bit smoother on my Mac M2 Max. And the second is that I do prefer grading a clean image first and then adding the grain back right at the end. I feel like I can see things a bit better without the grain. At the top here, you've got your basic corrections, things like exposure, white balance, and tint. Even if you disable the film stock completely, you can see that Dehancer will still convert your log footage into Rec 709 color profile and let you perform a complete color grade. Personally though, I don't really see the point of buying Dehancer just to use it as a log conversion or color grading tool. Final Cut already gives you plenty of tools for that. For me, the real value is in the film emulation. Before I start building the look, I normally do a quick color balance outside of Dehancer. In this case, I'm just using the hoodie as a neutral reference. It's not perfect, but it gets me close enough before I start making creative adjustments. Now for the fun part, choosing the film stock. There are loads to choose from, and honestly, this is probably where I spent a lot of time testing the plugin with different film emulation. After trying quite a few, I found myself coming back to three favorites, I guess. So the first one is Provia 100F, Velvia 50, and Kodak Gold 200. And for this particular shot, I'm going to go with the Provia 100F. You can also control exposure adjustments on the film emulation, specifically with that push-pull slider, as opposed to before the film emulation kicks in at the top of the panel. The film developer section is probably one of the panels I use the most. This is where I'd usually adjust contrast and saturation. And then you have your film compression panel that I almost always use as well. It gently rolls off the highlight and gives the image a softer, more cinematic feel without looking too artificial. And of course you can adjust the impact, which is the amount of compression in the highlights pretty much. Then you've got Expand. I found myself using this quite a bit as well. It lets you move some of the dynamic range by adjusting your black and white points, and having the waveform up in here on the left makes it really easy to see what you're doing. Next is the print section. Think of this as your final output look. You've got another opportunity to adjust white balance, saturation, contrast, and exposure. Personally, I try not to rely on this too much. If something looks off, I'd rather go back and fix it earlier in the process. For example, for this shot, I am not super happy with the color. So instead of forcing it here, I'll change things in the color head controls and add a little more red and magenta until it feels right. Now let's talk about the finishing touches. Film grain is something I always add back at the end, as I said, but I found the default presets a little too aggressive for my taste. Even the 35mm 200 ISO preset was way stronger than I normally use, so I usually switch to that custom drop-down list, reducing the grain size to somewhere around 2 to 4 and keeping the amount between about 10 to 20%. For me, this is just enough to give the image a bit of texture without making it look overly vintage. Halation is another feature I really like. It creates that subtle glow around bright highlights that you often associate with film or vintage lens as well. Again, I found the presets a little strong, so I normally switch to custom and keep it around 10% of impact here as well. And same story with bloom. It's a really nice effect, but I think it works best for me, at least when it's subtle. So just enough to soften the highlights without drawing attention. So I also tend to put it around 10% there. The remaining effects, things like film damage, film breath, gate weave, or overscan, I honestly don't use them very much. I have played around with them. Some of them can be, in my opinion, a bit too stylized, but if that's what you're going for, they work really well. They're really easy to use as well. The one exception is the vignette. I actually use this quite a bit, just a subtle amount to naturally draw your eyes towards the subject. So that's where I landed on this first shot. Here's the before and here's the after. I think there's still room to tweak it depending on personal taste, but I'd be perfectly happy delivering something like this. Once you've got a look you like, obviously save it as a preset, and I think this is where things get really interesting, because you can use something you've built already and don't have to start from scratch, and this is when things can get much faster. Here's another clip filmed just a few seconds later under almost identical lighting. I simply apply the preset, and honestly it's already about 95% there in my opinion. Maybe a tiny exposure adjustment and I'd be happy to move on from that. And let's try something a little more challenging with the same preset. If I apply the same preset again to that clip, it looks completely overexposed in that case, but I know there is some information in the original footage, in the log footage, so I'm thinking the color balance here is throwing things off. So if I remove it, this is what we get. Again, not perfect, but it shows you how easy you can match your shots. Now let's move on to a completely different scenario. This shot was filmed in harsh backlighting. So she's standing in the shade with bright sun behind her, exactly the kind of scenes where shooting in log really pays off in my opinion. For this one I'm going to start from scratch again, but I will speed things up a little so you can see my workflow without me talking through every little detail. So here's the before and after for this one. Again, not perfect, but I'm pretty happy with how it looks. Next up is a forest scene. Green environments are always tricky because everything picks up a color cast. This is also where shooting in 10-bit really helped. If I just apply my save preset here, it doesn't quite work straight away. The image feels far too green. But if I warm it up slightly and add a little bit of magenta, I think it looks pretty good in the end, only with a couple of small adjustments. And finally, here's another sunset scene, also a bit challenging as the dynamic range is pretty big here with the highlights in the sky and the subject in the shade. Again, I will start with my saved preset here and I will make a few tweaks to suit the different lighting. I'll speed that up and see what we can get. So this is where I ended up. The sky is still a little overexposed, but that's the compromise I choose for this shot, so it doesn't look too HDR-y, which I really hate. What's interesting is that Dehancer didn't really reduce the amount of color grading I was doing. I was still adjusting the exposure, I was still tweaking the contrast, I was still fine-tuning the colors. The difference was that I wasn't trying to create a look from scratch anymore, if that makes sense. I already had a look that I liked. From there, it was really just about refining it to suit each shot. It wasn't really saving me time moving sliders. It was saving me time finding the direction I wanted to take the image to. Now, you might be thinking, isn't that just what a LUT does? And to some extent, yes, a LUT can definitely give you a good starting point, but I found Dehancer much more flexible because of all the film features and details remaining fully adjustable. It's very easy to adapt the same look to completely different lighting conditions without feeling like you're fighting against the LUT, if it makes sense. And that's where I think Dehancer really shines. Once you found a look that matches your style, it's incredibly easy to keep a consistent look across an entire project while still giving yourself enough control to fine-tune every shot. Now, no plugin is perfect, and there are two things I noticed while using Dehancer that are worth keeping in mind. The first one isn't really a deal breaker in my opinion because there is an easy workaround, but the plugin is fairly demanding on your computer, or at least on my computer. So with the plugin enabled, playback definitely becomes less smooth than I'm used to. On my Mac Mini M2 Pro, Final Cut is normally incredibly responsive, even with 4K 10-bit footage. So it was something I noticed pretty quickly. The good news is that if you work with proxies, it's really not a huge issue. I personally don't tend to use proxies unless I'm editing something particularly heavy like a multicam project. But with Dehancer, I'd probably enable them for larger edits just to keep everything feeling nice and responsive. Of course, your experience will depend on your computer. So if you're running one of Apple's newer silicon chip, for example, or a more powerful machine, you may not even notice it at all. The second thing to keep in mind is export time. One of the reasons I love editing in Final Cut Pro, especially since I got a silicon chip on a Mac, is just how ridiculously fast exports are. As a rough example, 1 minute of 4K 10-bit footage normally takes about 1 minute to export on my machine. With Dehancer, it takes about 6 minutes. So yeah, that's 6 times longer. Now, whether that's a problem really depends on your workflow, but if your workflow is anything like mine used to be when I was editing wedding films, you might be exporting several versions, watch them on different devices on your TV, making notes of what's wrong, and then going back into editing and exporting, fixing those things, and then exporting again, and maybe doing this 3 or 4 times. And on a 15 to 30 minutes wedding film, that extra render time could add up pretty quickly. That said, for me, I'm not doing wedding films anymore, so in my current workflow, it's a trade-off I'm happy to make, and it doesn't affect me as much. So coming back to my original question, can Dehancer get me to a look I'm happy with faster? For me, yes. Not because it's a one-click solution, it definitely isn't actually. I still tweaked every shot, I still made creative decisions, but instead of spending the first few minutes figuring out where I wanted to take the image, I already had a direction, if that makes sense. And that's what I really think Dehancer does well. If you're the kind of filmmaker who already enjoys spending hours color grading every single project, that actually probably isn't for you, and that probably won't change your workflow very much. But if you're like me and you're trying to get the best result you can for the job without spending unnecessary time getting there, I really think the answer is worth looking at. I will leave it here for today's video. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.